Welcome to episode number 11 of Down the Lines. It is Tuesday, May 9th, and as always, I am one of your co-hosts, Spencer.
And I am Tyler. And on today's episode of Down the Lines, well, we just couldn't really figure out what exactly we wanted to talk about.
Well, there were so many options.
So what we're going to do, we're going to give y'all a little bit of a little mix of everything. So we're going to take Bump and Run, and we're just going to extend it a little bit.
Sounds good to me.
So before we get to Bump and Run, one thing we really did want to talk about was the tight race in the SEC Conference in college baseball.
Well, the season is nearing its regular season end, right?
Right.
And we've got what has become a highly competitive race in the SEC.
It's very close.
It's very close. And the difference with baseball as opposed to football per se is, yes, there's obviously still the West and the East, but on a national seed level, that doesn't really matter. So where we might be looking at the SEC standings and say we're only at one team ahead of us, Mississippi State, we actually also have to look at being tied with Kentucky and behind Florida in the SEC East.
Right.
So as we head into this weekend, things are awfully tight, right? So LSU conference play, we sit at 15-9.
Yes.
Which is a game back of Mississippi State.
Which is very respectable.
Oh, it's good. We are not in the driver's seat, but we control our own destiny.
Yes, definitely.
So to speak, right? The one team that really is as locked up as it's going to be in a tight race like this is Florida.
Yeah.
Florida 16-8. They play at Alabama this coming weekend, which is the worst team in the league, and then they play at home against Kentucky, who, ultimately that could decide the SEC.
It definitely could.
But Kentucky kind of falling here towards the end of the season. LSU in the same situation where they will play the team ahead of them in Mississippi State in the last series of the season as well.
Right.
So coming into this weekend is all about taking care of business before
Yes.
the big series finales next week. So this weekend we've got Auburn coming in, who just got swept by Alabama, which
Yes.
I just said was the worst team in the league, right?
By far.
Right, by far. They were 2-19 in the league prior to this.
Yes. People were saying they wouldn't get to 5 wins, which is the worst all time.
Right, but they did by beating Auburn in all 3 games.
Right.
That's just a rivalry, and that one stings a lot. Auburn, who was riding high, really
Yes.
in control of their season, they fall there 3 straight times to Alabama, the worst team in the league. That one stings for them.
That really hurts Auburn. You can't lose that series.
No, you can't.
That's when LSU was going in there 2 weekends ago, that was a series that they needed to sweep, but they couldn't lose 2 games in that series.
Right. We did get the sweep.
We did.
That weekend over Alabama, which was good. We needed it, but it was a team that we should have swept.
Yes.
And so as we go into this weekend, we have that Auburn team coming into the box.
Yes.
Who is definitely not super high on momentum right now.
Yes, they're kind of railing right now, and it's the wrong part of the season to be doing that. You're supposed to be getting hot at the end of the season, not coming down off the high cliff that they were on just a couple of weeks ago.
So that brings us to the LSU baseball team. I wouldn't say that we're necessarily clicking on all cylinders either. We lose game 1 against South Carolina.
Yes.
We come back, we win game 2 and 3. Game 3 could have gone either way.
All of them.
Really, all of them. It was a really tight series against a
Yes.
South Carolina team that really isn't in contention in the SEC.
Yes.
But they were necessary wins. We get the series win that we needed, although it leaves us still needing more, still needing improvements, because if we play the way we did against South Carolina, I don't know if we can beat Mississippi State at Mississippi State in 2 weeks.
The thing about us against Mississippi State has, get this, they have 7 pitchers who have undergone Tommy John surgery, and so they are on top of the SEC West without 7 pitchers.
Right.
How far can that go? That's what everybody's been asking. Mm-hmm. That's the question. Are they going to fall back a little? They just lost a couple of games to Texas A&M, which kind of brings them. They're coming back to earth now. We don't know if they're going to stay doing that. Texas A&M is a good team. At Texas A&M is a very hard place to play. So you don't throw that away, but you kind of got to be like, they played decent.
Well, when the schedule came out this season, when it came out, you circled 2 series on the calendar. One of them was Florida.
Yes.
Because you knew that was going to be your top 2 teams in the SEC facing off. And that series did not disappoint, especially that opening game with Lang, right?
1-0.
1-0, great game. That Alex Lang is 5-5 this season, undeservedly so, right?
Yeah,
a couple of those starts, sure, he wasn't great, but for the most part, it's been a lack of run support. The other series that you circled was Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Right? Mississippi State gets their new head coach, our former batting coach,
yes.
right? And so this is the one, and we knew it was a series finale. And if Mississippi State was going to be a good team, we knew that this series was going to be potentially the difference maker in our entire season, whether that means a run in the SEC tournament, whether that means hosting a regional, or the outside chance now for the Tigers of getting a national seed.
Yes, you circle Mississippi State at the beginning of the season because your former hitting coach is there.
Right.
You didn't think that Mississippi State was going to be this great team, especially when you get the news of 7 Tommy Johns.
Right.
But the job that Andy Cannizaro has done there, and he's put this team on top of the SEC with 2 weekends to go in his first season. 1, it scares you for the future. Mm-hmm. But 2, it makes this last series so much bigger because both teams have a lot to play for. And both teams need that series win to give them a push going into the postseason, a push going into the SEC tournament, and seeding for the tournament that's going to start in just a few weeks.
Just
we
a
are
couple weeks
knocking
away.
on the door.
When we talk about national seeds, LSU always is kind of right there in the national seed conversation.
It almost seems no matter how bad they're doing.
Right now, the way it's looking is if we're going to get, because we're only going to get 2 national seeds out of the SEC.
That's what
last year was an anomaly, pretty much. It just doesn't happen. It was a fluke, right? So we're going to get 2 national seeds out of the SEC. One of those, almost without a doubt, will be Florida.
Yeah,
almost without a doubt. They're number 4 in RPI. They faced Kentucky in their last series. They have Alabama. There's no reason that I would believe, or a Florida fan might believe, that they won't get a national seed. The other national seed that I imagine would be Kentucky.
That's the one who I would get. That would
again,
be
top 10 in RPI.
Right, yes,
they're second in the SEC. They have Tennessee, and then they're at Florida. So if they could scratch a game out of that Florida series and they can go in and take care of business with Tennessee, they all but will have a national seed locked up, yes. I would imagine. So the Tigers definitely on the outside looking in for a national seed. Doesn't mean it's impossible, but if they can go get the sweep this weekend with Auburn and really make a statement at Mississippi State, take that momentum into Hoover, into the SEC tournament, win.
Hoover is a place that they play very well a lot, especially under Coach Paul Maneri. They've gone for runs after runs in the SEC tournament. That's how whenever they won those 23 straight games in 2008, that's how they made it to the postseason, and that's how they made it to Omaha. And then the next year with Blake Dean hitting those just monster home runs, it seems like Hoover now they play their best at Hoover like they did in the 90s when they played their best in Rosenblatt Stadium.
Well, this makes me ask you this question. Does this team right now look capable of producing a run like that?
This team, it's funny. They have all the pieces there. Mm-hmm. They just haven't been able to piece them together. And something that Paul Maneri has been able to do at the end of seasons is kind of mesh this team, even if it's not looking good throughout the season. He can click something here in the last couple of weeks to give them a little bit of a run. I don't know if it's a big enough run to get them through the SEC tournament, though.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned Blake Dean on a streaky team. Blake Dean now, obviously, head coach of UNO, who beat us twice this season. We are 6-6 in midweek games after now a loss to South Alabama tonight. The reason I bring that up is we can't keep these streaks going where, like, even this weekend, we beat South Carolina
Yes.
2 out of 3. And then we come to South Alabama and we lose. The importance of these midweek games is not huge. I don't want to overstate that.
Yeah.
But it just seems to me that we're not a team that can streak together 6, 7, 8 wins at a time. We just don't have the bats to do it.
Yes, the bats are not there, and it's really scary. These midweek games, you're not facing these teams' best pitchers, and these are not the best teams in the nation that we're facing. So, come this weekend, hopefully hopefully the bats can wake up on Thursday. Hopefully Lane can continue pitching like he has the last few weeks, and just tune in and see how it goes.
If we want to make a statement at Mississippi State, if we want to make a statement in Hoover, the bats have to wake up, and we'll find out in these 2 really closely contested weeks in SEC play.
Absolutely.
A little earlier in the show than normal, but absolutely that is the sound, which means it is time for the bump and run. So I'm going to go ahead and start us off if you don't mind.
You can go ahead.
Thank you.
I normally do it, but you can do it this time.
I say you normally do it. I don't know if that's actually true or not. But we're going to change things up a little bit. We're going crazy here today on Down the Lines. But I want to start with Aaron Hernandez.
Do it.
I think that, well, okay, it was announced today that his charges have been dismissed.
Yeah.
No longer is he a convicted murderer. Because of that rule in Massachusetts that says if a prisoner is killed prior to his appeal,
Yeah.
That basically means it's tossed out. The suicide, this is where we're at. What do you think?
I mean, I think Hernandez was not your model citizen. I do think that he killed that guy. I think that he possibly murdered more than that. He's not with us anymore, so I don't think that this is the biggest, I don't think it's as big of a deal, really. I mean, you want it for the victims' families, but
Right.
what more could you do besides say that this dead man is guilty of killing another dead man?
I'm not like, oh no, Aaron Hernandez has died, but I'm not cheering it either. I just think it's such an interesting story. I think it's such an interesting situation. We'll never know.
Well, yeah.
Aaron Hernandez, it just seems like he was one of these guys who came up kind of in the bad scene, made all his money, got himself famous, did what it took to get out of there, but he never really got out of there.
Yes, it's like he wanted to be there, unlike most kids who want to get out of there.
Right.
He got out, but wanted to stay in there.
It's a difficult one, and it'll be just one of those puzzles that will go unsolved.
Most likely it will go unsolved. Sticking with football, but let's go on a different spectrum of a football player.
I feel like this will be a stretch of a segue, but go on.
Anyways, on a different topic, LSU 5-star defensive tackle commit Tyler Shelvin
Okay.
has shed 60 pounds after taking Coach Ed Orgeron's advice to eat gumbo with no rice.
Not quite the serious story like I was trying to do with the bump and run. Not quite the same thing.
Right.
How do you think that conversation went?
I think it went to more to his mom. I think I read Coach Orgeron called Shelvin's mom and said you need to start feeding this guy gumbo with no rice. And then Tyler ended up calling Coach O later on and said, "Coach, you're killing me. I need some rice."
This is the hard-hitting stuff that's going to make the LSU Tiger football team next year over the top. It's going to take them over the top. We're going to beat Alabama because of this. And you know what? I'm going to start eating my gumbo with no rice.
Same here.
Coach O says it. I'm done. That's all I really needed to know.
Right. I mean, it's basically soup, but
Well,
I'll take it. If you could eat gumbo every day and lose 60 pounds, I'm in. I mean, I might not use 60, maybe like 10 or 15, but
I think we're on to something. But
I
I have a feeling.
I think instead of weight loss pills, Weight loss gumbo is the
Weight
thing.
loss
No-
gumbo. I
no
think
rice.
I think you're on to
I
something.
think it tastes better.
I think we should not post this and then use this idea to make millions. Okay. The Emmys were
Okay.
this weekend, or
Yeah.
this week. And the Emmy for Outstanding Sports Personality went to Craig Sager.
Oh, Craig Sager. He's the GOAT.
He was, obviously this past year was pretty sad, right? He loses his battle
Yeah.
with cancer, wins the ESPY. Before that, it brought back memories of Stuart Scott. Same type of thing, right? This
Right.
larger than life sports personality that really you felt like you knew because you watched him on your TV for so long, and deservedly so wins the Emmy posthumously. So I just thought it was a really nice gesture. And he deserved it, and it was a great way to kind of wrap up his legacy.
Absolutely, it's a great way to wrap it up. To give him one last spotlight. I'm sure he'll come up. He's made a big
not
impression on the world.
Gone but not forgotten,
Yeah,
kind of thing. I promise that's my only two sad bump and runs. I've 2 bump runs about death. You can go ahead and brighten the mood again. What other food related story do you have?
I'll keep up with one that's not food related, but
Okay.
former Red Sox standout Daisuke Matsuzaka.
Ah, Daisuke.
He won a World Series with the Red Sox.
He did. I remember Daisuke
But
being
before
a big
pitching
deal.
in the major leagues,
Mm-hmm.
he in Japan their high school national championships is as big as a Super Bowl here, right? So it is the biggest thing in Japan sports wise is their high school championships called Koshien. So Daisuke Matsuzaka in one game during this tournament in one game he threw 17 innings and 250 pitches.
I'm sorry.
And
In
his
one
arm
game.
didn't fall off.
that's what I was, and he played after this. That's the question
yes,
I
and
had.
after this, he ended up going on to the major leagues and pitching years in the major leagues. But yes, he pitched 250 pitches in one game.
So the 100 pitches per outing with the Red Sox were nothing.
Nothing. He could do that in his sleep.
Well, I'm curious why now with your bump and run story, because I feel like unless someone put that in a bottle and let it wash ashore into the Gulf of Mexico, that's the only reason it would have taken you this long to get this as a suddenly breaking news story. Is there something going on I don't know about?
It's not so much of a breaking news story. It's just information that I have uncovered.
Well, thank you for that. If you tune in next week, we're going to go back to the 1940s, and Tyler will walk you right through the breaking news of the era.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that.
Thanks for giving a little precursor to my next bump and run. But go ahead.
Switch call it teaser
Yeah.
here. All right. Okay, my next story. Today it was announced Rory McIlroy signed a 10-year, $100 million deal with TaylorMade.
Big money, no whammies.
Stop.
TaylorMade is the winner. All right.
Well, there you go. 10 years, $100 million. When I read it, I thought, this is everybody, right? That TaylorMade now has everyone. They've completed the circle. They've got the Jason Day and they've got the Dustin Johnson and so on. Is this it? Is this it for the competitive golf brands? TaylorMade has really risen above and is head and shoulders above everybody else. Do you see that changing anytime soon?
I mean, me personally, I like to play TaylorMade. I can see why a lot of professional golfers will go TaylorMade. They make very good clubs, and they're the ones who are in the front of the spot. Like it was Nike, and now they've decided to stop making golf equipment.
Yeah,
and so
apparel.
Someone had to take firm control of the best players, and it looks like TaylorMade is doing it. You really don't see any other brand so far spread out. Like you don't see a Callaway in every pairing or every final grouping, and I think TaylorMade has taken that step above, and they have taken the crown for now. I don't know who. I'm sure someone will catch up one day. I don't know.
It's a monopoly for now and for the foreseeable future. which I mean they deserve it. There's no one else out there right now that makes clubs that's anywhere close, and so it's going to be tailor-made for a while, and that's fine. I have no issue with that. My next story is about the head football coach of Florida,
Okay.
Jim McElwain.
I don't know if I know where you're going with this.
You don't is the short answer. What do you think of Jim McElwain?
I think Jim McElwain is a good coach.
Okay.
He's done a lot with little so far at Florida. He had good defenses already established. Offensive wise, was not there yet. He still won back-to-back SEC West titles.
Yeah.
So I think he's good at coaching, getting a lot out of a little.
So I want you to imagine last season when Florida came into Death Valley on what was supposed to be a home game for them. They come in, they beat us, and then the post-game interview, Jim McElwain, the big smile, right? That smile, the happy, whatever absurd comments he made that I'm sure made me want to punch him in the face.
Yes.
Point being, imagine that face. Now imagine that face and that body
Okay.
naked.
I'd rather not.
Just imagine it. And now imagine it on top of a bloody dead shark on a boat.
What?
You got that image? Because that is the viral photo going around right now on the interwebs. And Jim McElwain says, listen, not me. He said, it's not me. I don't know who took that picture. He can't believe it's a story right now that someone like us is talking about it.
Yes.
But you look it up. There's a picture on Twitter of a bloody shark and a naked Jim McElwain.
I'm not going to look up that picture, but I'll tell you what that made me think of. Whenever you were going through that scenario, I immediately thought of when Happy Gilmore was trying to go to his happy place, and he just saw Shooter McGavin. That's what I feel like. If I ever try to go to my happy place, now I'm going to see Jim McElwain naked on top of a shark.
Well, you're welcome. And I hope I've done all I can to make that better for you. Next time you go to your happy place, Jim McElwain naked on a shark, we'll make sure that we put a link to that photo in in the video in the description below today. But we actually have a couple more bump and run stories.
Yes. So going even further back in time, because it's possible.
Yeah.
Baseball is a great game.
It is.
It started in 1846. It was a whole
Okay.
lot different than it was today.
Right.
So, like today, they try to protect pitchers, by pitching every, fifth day, or in college, once a week.
Makes sense.
And so I'd like to go back into the 1884 season to see how far we've come.
I'm sorry, back to when?
1884.
Okay. So you can always count down the lines to really bring the future to you. Let's hear it.
So I'm going to show you how much the game has changed. So today you have arm care, you've got pitch counts, you've got all these different metrics, you've got Tommy John, you've got all these different things to protect your pitchers, to keep them going. So in 1884, the Providence Grays, that was a team.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I didn't know. I thought it was like a syrup.
It was a team. So to protect their pitcher, they asked their ace of that season, Old Hoss Radburn.
Of course.
Yeah.
Old
Hoss. We all
yeah.
heard of Old Hoss, right? Mm-hmm. They asked him if he could just stay sober during the season to protect him. So
the sacrifices you made for the sport. You just don't hear good stuff like that anymore.
Right?
I mean, that's how the game changed.
He would pitch every single day. Every single game, he'd never let anybody else pitch. He's
a Kobe Bryant of his time.
He really was. He always took the last shot and the first shot and every one in between it. There was no... If the team won or lost, it was all on his shoulders. It's not like he could remember any of it because he was drunk half the time.
Well, that's why he could do it, because he was so drunk he couldn't feel the pain.
Exactly.
That's smart. The kids nowadays could learn a few things from Old Hoss.
Old Hoss. I think it's how he got his nickname. Man.
You need to change that to your Twitter handle.
I will.
You can follow him on Twitter at
Old
Hoss. All right. We're going to wrap up the show with the controversy surrounding ESPN right now.
Yeah.
This is so interesting to me. ESPN's ratings are down.
Yes.
Things are not going particularly well. They've done some revamping, and they have the Sports Center 6 with Michael and Jamil, and it's a different outlook. They have the Scott Van Pelt at midnight, and they're not doing particularly well. Why do you think that is?
Why do I think it is? I think it's you've got so many sports medias around. You got everything from other shows hosting sports, good personalities leaving for different shows. I mean, Aaron Andrews a while back, now Kayla Hartung's. And then you've got these other networks. You got your SEC network, your Texas Longhorn, Big Ten network, and they're all part of ESPN, but then it's branching out, and then you've got your apps on the phone, your Bleacher Report. Mine always pops up, and I don't have to watch ESPN because everything comes on my phone. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's kind of a part of the technology that we have now, and not having to watch it and have everything at our fingertips, and just being able to watch, clips and stuff about what you need to or what you want to see, and not having to sit there and watch ESPN for an hour at night to get all your sports news.
Well, I get that. I absolutely get that. I think we are getting to a point, and technology is a big part of this, where our attention spans are getting smaller. Yeah. We want to watch a 30-second clip, and that's about it. But FS1, that would be, I guess, the leading rival for ESPN, right?
Okay.
Their numbers are down too. But I'll tell you why, and this is what we're hearing a lot of for ESPN. We're hearing a lot of their programming is not as good as it used to be. They're giving a lot of time to Caitlyn Jenner and Tim Tebow and things like that. It's almost a politically based show. And I made this comparison where wrestling, the WWE, it changed from the WWF, NWA, all that stuff, where wrestling was the highlights and the big deal, and it changed to the WWE, E for entertainment.
Yeah. And
ESPN's kind of doing the same thing, where the E will now stand for entertainment. They want to, I guess they want their viewers to feel like they're connected to the political world and to the big stories of the day. So there's an agenda there. They're pushing the Caitlyn Jenner, even though Bruce Caitlyn Jenner hasn't been an athlete for 30 years.
Yeah.
Like, is that really sports news now? Yeah, but not relevantly now, really. So I think it's very interesting, and I wonder how they're going to change things to try to bounce back from that. They're being described as very liberal programming, which, whether you agree with what they're saying or not, is not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that they are seemingly, from the outsiders looking in, they seemingly are more political than maybe they need to be as a sports program.
Yes, that's just, as a sports program, I tune in to watch the highlights, the web gems, the top 10, the not top 10, the sports, the races, wild card race, playoff pushes, things like that. I'm tuning in to see who's going to win the MVP this year. I'm not tuning in to see who the MVP is voting for president.
Right. It's kind of taken a step back from your sports-driven programming, highlights, analysis, to personality-based and story-based, which there's a place for that. I don't think they should get away from it as a whole, but it seems like the focus of ESPN programming as a whole, including SportsCenter, their flagship show, it's definitely changed gears. It's changed focus, and I think that's what's hurting their viewership. I know I don't watch the SportsCenter like I used to. I don't come home every day, turn on the television, and watch that SC6. I don't watch the midnight before I go to. I love Scott Van Pelt, and it's not him at all.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I don't feel like it's must-watch television anymore because I can get my sports from other places.
Absolutely.
And I don't feel like I can catch up on my political agenda anywhere else in the world. The sports are supposed to be your escape from that.
Exactly.
And I think that's what we've lost here in the last couple of months.
And I think that's why a lot of people love sports so much, is because
it is an escape.
You don't have to think about
Right.
The real world. I mean, if you are an athlete, that is your real world. That's your life. But me and you, we don't ever play sport. I mean, we play sports, but we don't play for a team. We don't get paid to do it. We don't get paid to do this. We are just doing this for fun to get away from our actual jobs,
Work
our
and school.
families,
Right, exactly.
everything that's going on in our head, and it's just something that lets us relax.
Right. And ESPN has turned to, I'm not relaxing anymore. Like, I still get it. This is not a bash ESPN. They still do a lot of really good things.
Yeah.
Their programming, taking a step back, their focus, taking a different direction, and it's not the sports-headed programming that we're used to.
Yes.
And I get that maybe they were trying something. I just don't know if it's working for them. But that will ultimately do it here for us today on Down the Lines. Next week, we will update you on the SEC baseball race. We'll get into more of LSU football prepping for the offseason and the summer that will be. And, of course, the NBA conference finals will be set, and we'll touch on that just a bit. But you can follow us on Twitter here at Spencer Hunt.
Right here at that boy Cleon.
Until he changes it to at Old Haas. That'll anytime
that might happen
now.
tonight. So it might actually be at Old Hoss. I might have to scratch him, put another one up there. But
really, really crudely, like with crayon. Anyway, we appreciate you joining us today, and we'll catch you next week.
Down the lines.